These are 10 romance movies from the 1980s that defied Hollywood expectations and turned into cultural landmarks. From a low-budget dance drama that cleared more than $200 million worldwide to a teen detention film shot for just $1 million, these movies did more than sell tickets. They shaped how a generation viewed love, rebellion, and growing up. Dirty Dancing began as a risky gamble with a budget hovering between $4.5 and $6 million, and Vestron Pictures had so little confidence that the original plan was a brief weekend run before sending it straight to video. Early test screenings failed to impress, MGM leadership changes caused months of chaos, and the project nearly collapsed under studio uncertainty. What nobody expected was a runaway hit. Worldwide grosses climbed past $213 million, placing it as the third highest-earning film of 1987, and the success did not stop there. In 1988, Dirty Dancing became the first film to sell 1 million copies on home video, finishing the year as the top video rental, and by 2007, DVD sales alone passed 10 million copies. Behind the scenes, tension between Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey clashed with their magnetic chemistry on screen, which only added to the film's mystique. Awards followed quickly as I've Had the Time of My Life captured an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, and a Grammy. The ultimate seal of approval arrived in 2024 when the Library of Congress selected the film for the National Film Registry, recognizing its cultural and historical importance. An Officer and a Gentleman arrived in theaters on August 13, 1982, and proved that adult romance still pulled massive crowds. With a production cost between $6 and $7.5 million, the film earned $190 million worldwide, ranking as the third highest-grossing release of that year. Casting almost derailed the project. John Denver initially held the lead role, John Travolta later declined it, and only after those exits did Richard Gere step in. Once filming began, chemistry did not come easily, as Deborah Winger openly clashed with Gere and famously described him as a brick wall. Yet the friction somehow strengthened the performances on screen. Recognition followed quickly. Louis Gossett Jr. won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, becoming the first African-American actor to claim that honor. The closing image of Gere lifting Winger from the factory floor in dress whites burned itself into pop culture memory, inspiring parodies across shows like The Simpsons, Clarissa Explains It All, and Scrubs. Flashdance opened on April 15, 1983, and critics reacted harshly, with Roger Ebert giving it 1.5 stars before later adding it to his most hated films list. Audiences ignored the reviews entirely. On a budget between $7 and $8 million, the film surged past $200 million worldwide, again landing as the third highest-grossing movie of the year. Jennifer Beals landed the lead role at just 17 with no formal dance background, which meant movie magic had to step in. French actress Marine Jahan handled most dance sequences, Crazy Legs performed the breakdancing, and gymnast Sharon Shapiro completed the athletic moves, all stitched together to create one seamless performer. Fashion and music carried the legacy even further. That famous off-shoulder sweatshirt came from a simple laundry accident when Beals cut the collar after it shrank, and director Adrian Lyne kept it in the film. The soundtrack sold more than 20 million copies, and Irene Cara's Flashdance, What a Feeling, pushed Michael Jackson's Thriller out of the #1 spot on the Billboard charts. Released on February 15, 1985, The Breakfast Club marked John Hughes' directorial debut and unfolded entirely during an 8-hour Saturday detention. A budget of $1 million produced more than $51 million worldwide, turning a simple premise into a defining teen drama. Casting choices shaped everything. John Cusack originally filled the role of John Bender before Judd Nelson replaced him for appearing more intimidating, while Molly Ringwald shifted from the role of Allison to Claire by request. Nelson stayed aggressively in character during filming, pushing tensions so far that Hughes nearly removed him from the production. Long after its release, reassessment followed. Preservation by the National Film Registry came in 2016, but modern criticism intensified when Ringwald revisited the film in a 2018 New Yorker article and again in April 2024, citing elements that aged poorly. By April 2025, she openly said the film was too white to remake, yet that same month all 5 principal cast members reunited in Chicago for the first time in 4 decades. Footloose premiered on February 17, 1984, built around a premise that sounded fictional but was rooted in real events. Elmore City, Oklahoma had banned dancing since 1898, and when students requested permission for a prom in February 1980, national headlines followed. Production costs between $7.5 and $8 million turned into $80 million domestically, making the film the 7th highest grossing of 1984. The soundtrack outperformed the movie itself, selling 9 million copies and displacing Thriller from the top of the Billboard chart for 10 consecutive weeks. Kevin Bacon credited the role with launching his career, although much of the dancing relied on 4 separate doubles covering stunts, choreography, and gymnastics. Since 2010, Elmore City has embraced the legacy by hosting an annual Footloose festival every April. 16 Candles arrived on May 4, 1984, marking John Hughes' true directorial debut. A $6.5 million budget led to $23.5 million at the box office, while Molly Ringwald emerged as a defining teen star of the decade. The story followed Samantha Baker as her family forgot her 16th birthday amid wedding chaos, and Michael Schofling's Jake Ryan quickly became the era's ultimate crush. Cultural reassessment arrived swiftly, as the character Long Duk Dong drew criticism even at release. A 1984 New York Times review labeled the portrayal unfunny and offensive, and by 2008, NPR described it as one of Hollywood's most harmful Asian stereotypes. Scenes involving consent have also drawn scrutiny, reframing how the film is viewed today. Pretty in Pink debuted on February 28, 1986, and became John Hughes' final collaboration with Molly Ringwald. Produced for $9 million, domestic earnings passed $40 million, placing it among the year's top releases. Ringwald's Andy Walsh navigated class divides through a romance with Andrew McCarthy's Blaine, while John Cryer's Ducky lingered painfully on the sidelines. The title came from a psychedelic Furs song, and the soundtrack reached gold status within 2 months. Audience reaction reshaped the ending entirely. Test screenings rejected the original conclusion where Andy chose Ducky, forcing Hughes to rewrite the final act. A novelization published that same year preserved the first ending, leaving behind a rare glimpse of what nearly reached theaters. Say Anything opened on April 14, 1989, launching Cameron Crowe's directing career on a $16 million budget. Domestic earnings stopped at roughly $21 million, yet a 98% Rotten Tomatoes score secured cult status. The film's most famous image nearly vanished. John Cusack resisted the boombox gesture, arguing Lloyd Dobler would never make such a public display, and proposed a quieter alternative involving his car instead. Cameron Crowe solved the problem creatively by telling Cusack they would rehearse without filming, only to secretly roll cameras once he committed. Years later, the moment came full circle when Peter Gabriel raised an inflatable boombox during a September 2023 Madison Square Garden concert. Entertainment Weekly crowned the film the best modern romance in 2002. Overboard reached theaters on December 16, 1987, pairing real-life partners Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. The story followed a wealthy woman with amnesia who was convinced she married the carpenter she once mistreated. The opening weekend earned just $1.9 million, followed by steady growth across the next 2 weeks, eventually closing at $26.7 million domestically. Genuine chemistry carried the film, helped by the presence of the couple's infant son Wyatt in his screen debut. Longevity proved stronger than reviews. A 2006 South Korean television adaptation and a 2018 Hollywood remake with reverse gender roles extended its influence. Although Hawn later told Variety in 2023 that remakes rarely match the original. Mannequin premiered on February 13, 1987, featuring Andrew McCarthy as an artist whose mannequin creation comes to life as Kim Cattrall, portrayed as an ancient Egyptian spirit. Critics reacted harshly. Roger Ebert awarded half a star, Leonard Maltin dismissed it entirely, and Rotten Tomatoes later recorded a 20% score. Audiences responded differently, delivering a B+ cinema score and turning the film into a sleeper hit. $8 million in production costs generated more than $42 million in returns, nearly $25 million within the first month alone. Kim Cattrall trained extensively to match 6 custom mannequins sculpted in her likeness, while Starship's Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now reached #1 and earned an Academy Award nomination. Over time, fans embraced the film, often praising Meshach Taylor's Hollywood Montrose as a progressive character for its era. Combined box office earnings for these 10 films exceeded $1 billion, with most budgets sitting well under $10 million. Careers launched, fashion trends exploded, and the blueprint for modern romance took shape. Some elements now feel uncomfortable. Representation gaps stand out, consent scenes raise questions, and once celebrated jokes no longer land the same way. Preservation by the Library of Congress for both Dirty Dancing and The Breakfast Club reflects their influence rather than perfection. These films capture longing, class tension, and youth in ways that still resonate, showing where the culture stood and how far it has moved. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit subscribe and share which of these films still means the most to you. Thanks for watching.